Welcome to Think About It. I'm Sylvia Henderson, your host, and I invite you to tune in, take what you see and hear, and, well, think about it. So today, we're going to talk about a little bit about business development, but even more about your messaging and how you actually, if you're interested in building a business, growing a business, and even if you work for someone and you need to get messaging out about what it is you do or what it is your company does, that's what we're going to be talking about today. And my guest is Laura Gastwirth, and she is a business coach and more. So I'll let her say what she does. Laura, welcome to Think About It.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, and because I stopped asking people for their bios, because it just came out so dry, the first question I like to ask my guest is, so who are you? How did you get to do what you do? And what do you do?
Okay. Well, I'm a business consultant, and my company is called Worthware. And I help people in business, whether they're business owners or just professionals who want to get somewhere different. They want to grow personally, professionally, and I help them get there. And that means a lot of different things. But we'll talk about that later. And how I got here, I'm actually a lawyer, but found pretty early on that it wasn't for me. So I started off in the world of entrepreneurship.
Okay.
And my story of how I got here is actually a sad one, story of failure, which actually sometimes leads to success.
Yep.
About 10 years ago, I started a business for teen jewelry. It was like a fad jewelry item.
Man, that's a niche.
Yeah. They were called jam bracelets. They were black, stretchy bracelets. Each one had a sterling silver alphabet bead, and you could stack them to spell something.
Huh.
So L-O-V-E, whatever.
Okay.
And they took off. They were a hit in little teen boutiques right around town. Then I spread up and down the East Coast.
Oh, wow.
On the internet, etc. And they were doing great. I was making them in my basement with my little girls at the time and shipping them out, selling them.
Man, that's the stuff you see
one
on Shark
day,
Tank, man.
I know,
done
now,
in the basement. And
now we could have handled it a little differently.
But hey.
But that's how we started. And eventually I got a phone call from a national retailer, and it was a buyer who had seen my stuff on the internet and was interested in talking to me about selling at their store.
Okay.
I panicked. I had not planned for success, ever.
Interesting.
I had no clue how I would go about sourcing the materials, having them manufactured, packaged. Hadn't given it a thought. So rather than pulling myself up by my bootstraps and figuring that out, I closed the doors of the business.
Wow.
So it taught me a very valuable lesson. Fast forward a few years, I started working at the Maryland Women's Business Center, which is wonderful, a part of Rockville Economic Development and resource partner of the SBA. And I worked with a lot of women there as a business counselor, helping them start and grow their businesses, and really had a passion for doing that and helping them with their business plans, because I knew firsthand how important it is to have a plan and to plan not only for failure but for success as well.
That's a great story, even though it ended the way it ended, but it still brought you into, like you said, helping other people either avoid that or, when you were telling your story, I was thinking about, as a speaker and an author, one of the things that a lot of my colleagues and I sometimes say is, I want to get on Oprah, way back when Oprah was on TV. I want to get on Oprah. And I know several speakers, several authors who did get on Oprah and without the prep. And I know she said it over several times. When her book club launches the book or talks about a book, and the author that I'm thinking of, or a couple of people, said, we weren't ready for thousands of orders, back when they were doing it. So exact same thing.
Yeah.
Be prepared for success. Interesting.
Yeah.
So then, and you're right, Maryland Business Center, know them well, Women's Business Center. When you're speaking then with I sit down and I've got this idea, and I'm just going to be the greatest thing, and I'm going to start a business because I'm going to exaggerate a little bit, the crafts that I'm doing.
Right.
I'm exaggerating, but I hear this.
Yeah.
What do you tell them?
So I always start off talking to people about, evaluating their idea. And it's always exciting because people love what they do and they're passionate about it and believe that they have a business there. And many people want to be entrepreneurs and run their own ship and all of that. So the first thing I always do is try and evaluate the viability of an idea. And how do we do that? Oftentimes we write a business plan.
Oh.
That makes people have that exact reaction. So it's the big eye roll, which I've learned anytime one of my clients rolls their eyes or has a reaction like that, I stop. And that's not what we're going to do.
Okay.
Because when you are met with resistance, try something different. So truly, what I consider to be a business plan is just writing something down or thinking through the following questions. And a really good business plan just answers these questions. So it's, what's your business? Is there a need for your business? Is anyone else doing it? Why can you do it better than they can do it? How are you going to do it? Who do you need to help you do it? How are you going to get the word out that you're doing it? How are you going to pay for it? Do you need help paying for it? Do you need a loan? And how easy is it going to be for you to pay that back? And that's it. So it doesn't have to have big fancy words like competitive market analysis. That basically is all rolled up into the questions that I just kind of rattled off to you. But it's important to think through all of that stuff and really do your homework before you jump in with both feet into a new business. So that's sort of where I start with people when they have an idea.
So it sounds like instead of that thick business plan that I went to, I don't know how many seminars to learn how to put together, and then didn't put one together, which is that reaction. It sounds like a 4 or 5 page write-up is kind of all people need to think through those questions.
Yeah, and it really is just thinking them through and being honest with yourself as a potential business owner regarding, is there a need for this business and can I do it better than the people who are already out there doing it?
So one of the questions that you asked, and I hope people kind of rewind that and start and take notes on the questions if any viewer is thinking about, I've got an idea and I want to start a business, no matter where they are in life. I'm presuming even somebody who works for a company and they're about to enter retirement or that next stage and they're thinking, I've had this idea forever and I want to start a business. They need to think through those same questions. One of the questions you asked that I want to touch on a little bit more, if I answer, nobody else is doing this, is that a good thing or is that a bad thing? It depends.
That's a really good question. Is there a reason no one else is doing it?
Okay.
So we have to kind of then take it a step further into who's going to pay you to do this or who's going to buy what you're selling, and is anyone going to?
Okay.
And so that's a question I always ask my clients, what are people happy to pay you for? What do they just love writing you a check to do or to buy? And if the answer is, well, people aren't really happy when I give them a bill, they're really not happy to pay me, then I always try and rethink things a little bit and shift gears and try and find a different target market or maybe refine their product or service.
How to best get this down on something, and then what do you do with it afterwards?
So I suggest to people often to get a notebook and get dividers with tabs and label each tab one of the questions. Need, competition, operations, marketing, all of those things. And then as you're thinking about things, stick it behind that tab and start collecting your thoughts that way. Eventually, I think it's a great idea to actually sit down at a computer and type it up just so you have it, because your business plan can really serve as your guidebook going forward. And it should be something that if you are wildly successful and are able to sell your business, that you can hand off to the person who buys it. About how to run this business.
Now that's something that a lot of people don't think about either. It's sort of like, oh, I want to get this business going, I want to grow it, I want to make it happen.
Yeah.
But you just said if they want to buy it, so that means we need to think about an exit plan.
Right. So that's something.
Which is hard when you're just thinking about an entry.
It is. But I think it really does help. It takes a lot of energy, as you know, and a lot of passion and dedication to run your own business. So thinking ahead to your possibilities for success sometimes really keeps you going. And thinking about that can sometimes be a really good impetus.
Okay. So rather than give away everything that you do for somebody by telling the entire how you get your business started and going and growing, I want to now start going a little deeper into what we talked about when we first met, and that is you have a special way of helping people get their messaging out so that they talk about their business, what it is they do, and all of that. So is it the elevator speech, or is it something different from that?
It's sort of a combination of an elevator pitch and just telling your story. So I sometimes refer to them as cocktail party tidbits. It's sort of how you would talk about yourself or want someone to talk about you if they were thrilled about a service you provided or a product that they purchased from you. But not necessarily using the buzzwords of your business. So for me, I sometimes find people's eyes glaze over when they say, what do you do? And I say, oh, I'm a small business consultant. I work with a wide range of industries and business owners of different sizes, from 1 to 5 to 25 to 100. And they just kind of look at me like, oh, what does that mean?
Okay.
So sometimes when we couch it in terms that are more organic and easily understandable, it makes us more marketable. So I encourage people to think of their story, and that can come from anywhere. So for example, one of my clients who knew that I was a huge fan of Criminal Minds and sometimes tended to binge watch.
Okay, so that's a TV show.
Yeah.
For those who don't.
Like
okay.
a Law and Order,
Okay.
Criminal Minds kind of.
That's
one
a
of those.
strange one
Yeah.
too, man. They have some strange cases. Go ahead.
But so my client referred to me as a client profiler. And I thought that was pretty cool because it made me remember the FBI profilers on Criminal Minds, and that it's something I'm proud to be good at, is sort of honing in on a target market and really developing a great profile so a person can get their story or their message out in the right voice to speak specifically to that market. So some examples of stories, other than the one I just used about being a client profiler. I have an attorney who works with land use developers. So they are developing huge projects and, cities and buildings and hotels and all of this kind of stuff. And as you can imagine, there are a lot of hurdles to get through, from buying the land until opening the doors to the hotel, right? So this client refers to herself as just this invisible force that picks the client up and plops them over every hurdle. So it's as if they're running a race with hurdles, and she is just this force. Rather than talking about all of the zoning laws and contracts and negotiation points that she helps with, which obviously she does,
Right.
it's just a more palatable way to explain what she does.
It sounds kind of human. I mean.
Yeah, it's all humanizing.
And I could see it rather than the stuff that you said she has to do in the business. I could just see the little game piece on a Monopoly board, considering it's property.
Yeah.
And picking it up and moving it over the hurdles. Interesting. And so you, as a reformed or former attorney, I know several attorneys who are now like art directors and basket weavers because the attorney thing was really burn people out. How does, and I may say we're going to cover this after the break, because I want you to help the viewer. Time goes fast. So we need to take a break in less than a minute. But when we come back, I want you to sort of go a little bit more deeply into, so how do we build our story? And it's more than once upon a time.
Right. Okay.
Okay, cool.
We'll do that.
So we're going to learn how to tell our story in a professional way and an interesting way when we come back.
People think I'm trash, but they're wrong. Today I'm just an aluminum can, but one day I could be a stadium.
Hello and welcome back to Think About It. I am Sylvia Henderson. I'm still your host, and we are still talking about messaging and how we tell our story, how we get the message out in an interesting way about our business, if we're building a business or starting a business, about our company, if we're working for somebody else. How do we say what it is we do and what we're about? And my guest is Laura Gastwirth, and Laura is a business consultant. I said coach before, but I like consultant better. And so your specialty is helping people not only take the steps they need to take to start and grow their business, but also get the message out about their businesses. Right. So at the break, or right before we took the break, I said, let's dig a little bit deeper into that storytelling thing. And I'm assuming it's more than once upon a time.
It is.
So I'm at a networking event and I need to tell somebody, so what do you do? How do I develop that story?
So we develop that story in a number of different ways. I have a lot of little tips and tricks. One is to think back through work you've done, projects you've worked on that have made someone happy. When someone has sent you an email saying, Sylvia, thank you so much, you were amazing. You just did such a great job on that project and I'm really looking forward to working with you again. So it's good to save these things for marketing purposes always, but also to build your story. Because we have to get comfortable talking about ourselves in glowing terms, and oftentimes that's easier when we can attribute those compliments to someone else.
Ah, so it's not how great I am. It's, well, Laura met me and Laura worked with me and she said,
yeah.
Is that more, okay.
So sometimes it can be, I got this great email. It really made my day. My client just was so happy with the way things worked out and it was really a great project to work on. So that's a way to kind of talk about some of the things you do. And I think before the break we talked a little bit about what makes people happy to pay you, or what do people want to write you a check for.
Okay.
And that gets somehow into happiness. So many years ago, I have a friend who sells invitations. So she is in the party business, invitations and birth announcements and sweet 16s, wedding announcements. And I always felt like she was so happy. It was such a great business because she always got to talk to people in, great points of their lives.
That wasn't funeral invitations,
yes.
Okay.
Was not that I've heard.
Okay.
So I thought it was so great that she got to be in the happiness business and thought that was so cool and exciting that every day was happy for her. And it got me thinking, me too. I am in the happiness business because on some level, my clients are really happy as a result of the work we do together. So I'm doing something for them to get them further in life, business, whatever, that makes them happier.
Wow, I don't think I would have ever thought in that term. The left brain that I am in systems and processes, it's like, well, I help people make more money. Well, I help people.
But that makes them happy.
Interesting. Okay.
So I try and encourage clients to think about that. Think about it, about how they make their clients happy. And then we can build a story that way. And oftentimes I will say your elevator pitch should be, clients come to me for help with X, Y, and Z. I make them happy by A, B, and C. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I hear happy and happiness and I think, oh man, that's woo-woo stuff. That's not, I'm a business coach. I don't do woo-woo. So I wouldn't have even thought about happy.
Yeah. It's just a different way of looking at things. And it appeals to some people, and I'm sure there are some people it doesn't appeal to. I'm sure there are some people who want to hear that you can really help them with their Excel spreadsheets to, track their data analytics from how their website's performing.
Yes.
And that's what's going to be a seller for them. And maybe I'm not the right business consultant for those people. But for most people that I've started working with so far, they have been happy to think about things in this way because another big piece of what I do is help them not be afraid. And oftentimes when you're a small business owner, it's scary. We have a lot to think about. We wear a lot of hats. And helping them move forward in a way that's not so overwhelming is oftentimes more successful than bombarding them with a lot of to-dos.
Do you ever run into potential clients or for whom entrepreneurship you don't think it's for them? They talk to you and you think, I'm not sure you'll be happy being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. Well, maybe my happiness thing comes from my growing up. I grew up with a dad who is a psychiatrist, and he told a joke oftentimes. How many psychiatrists does it take to change a light bulb? And the answer is none. the light bulb has to want to change.
Oh, jeez, okay.
So I must have heard this joke 4,000 times growing
sure
up.
if it was your dad, yes.
But it goes back to the same idea with potential entrepreneurs, that they have to really want to do it. People oftentimes want to talk about making a business out of beading or painting, and I use crafts, and I don't mean to minimize the wonderful possibilities, but going back to that a little bit. And they like to talk about starting a business, but when it comes down to it, they don't necessarily have the stomach maybe for doing all of the work that's involved in putting it all together.
Yeah, because it's
it's not for everyone.
Yeah, because it's not for the faint of heart, as they say.
Not.
So we're talking about building our businesses. How about if I work for somebody? And I mean, I've got a corporate career with, well, I won't say the name of the company. Let's just say 3 letters, and they have little stripes in their lettering. But so I came from a corporate environment where their messaging was already there. You know, would stories help with an employee or who's working for a company tell the story of the company?
I think it can help sometimes. I think probably what would help more in that situation would be going back to the happiness thing, not to focus on the woo-woo for you, but it really is the case. So as a manager, you want to do your job, and to do your job, you're counting on the people that work for you.
Okay.
To get them to do their best work, you want them to be happy. So it's kind of thinking about things in those terms, and that's how you're going to get your best work out of the people who work for you. And on the flip side, if you're working for a manager, if you're a lower level employee or new to the company, you want to make your boss happy. And sometimes you need to ask questions about that to see how you're doing. How's it going? I just wanted to check in with you. Are you happy with my work so far? Is there anything I can do better? Maybe you could, offer me some advice on ways I could improve and grow and be more helpful to you.
So when somebody comes to you then, kind of go back almost full circle to the beginning of the interview, when someone comes to you and they say, I want counseling, consulting on building a business, or let's take the person who's well into their business at this point, because I'm sure you have a range of clients. So I've got a business going, I'm doing okay, but I know I could do better. I know the business can do better. Sort of, is there a system or process that you take people through in order to move them to that, I hate using the next level because it's used so much, but to move them to grow and succeed, even more?
Absolutely. Yeah, I do an analysis of their current business, and I talk to them often about their buckets of business. So that's different things that they do for different markets. So maybe in one part of their work, they do search engine optimization. Another part, maybe they do graphic design, PR. Maybe they do all of these different pieces for different people.
Okay.
And so we analyze each bucket of business and talk about how well they're doing in each area. And again, going back to what are people happy to pay you for? It's human nature, unfortunately, for us to focus on what's not working a lot of the time. So I always try and figure out which piece of their business or what product or service that they're offering is the most successful. And then we kind of rank them most successful to least successful.
Okay.
And 9 times out of 10, people are focusing on their least successful bucket of business. When if they could focus on their most successful piece, all they would have to do is put a teeny bit of energy into marketing that, and they could be wildly successful. So it's sort of just shifting priorities and, again, getting back to target markets and analyzing who they're selling to and are they the right people, and kind of doing a little bit of creative thinking about that.
So is there a mistake or two? I know this is the negative, but what are a couple things that you see that are pretty typical as in your consulting, that you're thinking, okay, viewers, whatever you do, consider this, whether it's plus or whether it's negative?
Well, it's sort of what you just said. It's whatever you do, consider other possibilities. I think we get very entrenched in what we do day to day when we're running a business, and we get stuck in this rut of thinking, this is the way it is, this is what I do, this is how I do it, and this is who I do it for. And it becomes really difficult to think outside of that box. So that would be, I think, the biggest mistake is when people get really just hyper-focused, and I think it helps to think of your business more organically and let it grow and develop according to who you're serving and how you're developing as a person. So I think just being able to be open to possibilities.
That's one of the neat things about being a consultant for someone, is that you are that other mind, that other brain, because we are so into ourselves, and especially if we're solo entrepreneurs, it's like, okay, I'm doing it all, I'm making it work, and you're that other. It's like, okay, let's step outside and think of things differently.
Yeah.
So as we're coming to a close, believe it or not, how do people reach you? And when they call or email, what's kind of the first thing you do to help them?
Well, people can find me on my website, worthware.com. And
say that again.
Worthware.com.
Okay, W-I-R-T-H.
Yeah, W-A-R-E.com. And my contact information's on the website.
Okay.
And call or email me, and we'll have a conversation. And it'll be sort of like the conversation we just had.
Cool.
Very easy, not scary. Talk about what your problems are that you perceive your problems to be and how I might be able to help. And if it's a fit, if it's a fit. Yeah.
And any last minute, 30-second thing you want to leave people with?
Just, I think the world is a better place if we all consider ourselves in the happiness business. And just if you go about your day thinking about that, it makes it a lot easier to get through some of the hard parts.
I love that. Laura, thank you for being my guest today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, and I hope that you viewers are happy having heard what we've been talking about today, and to really think about, so what do you do that makes people happy, and emphasizing more of that. I think that's really a cool thing, focusing more on that. So, just like Laura said, think about it. So I invite you to tune in, take what you see and hear, and, well, think about it. I'm Sylvia Henderson, your host, and I invite you to make a great day.